It's a million things. This woman is wearing the largest gown on the face of the planet. It lands on the bodice of her dress, bounces a couple of times, and slides all the way down her skirt.
Okay.
The juiciest, sauciest meatball I could find. It's like, boom.
All right, so usually I would ask you, but I'm pretty sure I remember where we left off last time.
It's a good test for you.
Tell me if I'm wrong. You just got married. Through choices of, like, no one's really? Kind of yours, kind of not. You're just like, thank God I'm not in Iran, right? We're still in the UAE. You guys have gotten an apartment given to you for a year by his father.
Yes.
And he's playing guitar.
He's playing guitar. Yes. You are spot on. You were listening. I'm so proud.
You know, you'd think I wasn't. You'd think I wasn't. But I was.
I'm very proud.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's an eye-opener, to say the least. I have gotten a job as a secretary.
Okay.
At a small office building.
You graduated high school?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. Graduated before I got married. Both of us did.
Oh.
And so I'm a secretary. I get up every morning and I go to work, and every morning I leave him in bed. Then after a while, a little furniture store opened up just outside of our apartment, and I went over there and asked them if they had any openings, and they hired me right away. So for a couple of months or a few months, I quit the other job because it was convenient. It was across the street from my apartment.
Yeah.
So I worked as a record keeper, salesperson at a furniture store that nobody ever walked through. So I had a lot of free time on my hands.
I'm sure it was cool too, because Sean could come in and play guitar on the couches there.
Yes, exactly. Except he didn't even leave the apartment. Yeah.
He really didn't.
No. And what he would do is he would sleep most of the day, and then he would get up and he would play guitar, and then I would get home. And this is where I realized our understanding of what marriage and relationship was supposed to be like was completely different. So he would then play guitar all day long. I would come home. Maybe we would have dinner, maybe not. And then he would go and hang out with his buddies. And his brother lived next door. So he would take his guitar and he'd go hang out at his brother's apartment with their buddies. And they were guys, just hanging out. And literally all night long I could hear them playing music and goofing off and hanging out. And I would go to bed. I would get up in the morning and I would go to work, and there was just no desire on his part to provide in any shape or form. He was 19. I get it. But there was no...
So many questions. One, does his dad know about this?
His parents know, yeah. Well, I think they gotta... Yeah, they do, because he doesn't have a job, yeah.
Do they give a shit? Like...
I think there were probably conversations, but he wasn't listening. He was 19, so they would say to him, this isn't a good idea. And they were very good about not having these conversations with me around.
Very cool.
So they were very good about making that private with him. But later on I found out that there were conversations, but he just didn't really...
Do you think that was for the best, or do you wish that they would have included you?
I think that probably it would have made even less of an impact if I was included, because he would have been even more defensive if I was included in the conversation. I think it was probably the best.
Oh, that's right. He was 19.
Exactly.
It is a little weird, though. It's all weird. In the UAE, is there drinking allowed? I'm assuming there is.
So drinking is allowed, but it's in certain places. So if
like
you
by
go,
law?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you go to, theoretically, no Muslim person can drink.
Yeah.
But they don't, ask you for your religion ID card, when you go to a bar at a hotel, for example.
Do they have those?
No, I'm just kidding. But
at this point,
I realized
you
when
tell
I
me.
said, I'm like, people would be like, Do they have those things?
Oh.
So you could go, if you went to, for example, a hotel, restaurant, or bar, you would be served alcohol. But if you went to a freestanding restaurant, now I'm sure things are different now, but we're talking the early 80s. If you went to a freestanding restaurant, typically they did not serve alcohol.
Okay.
And you couldn't just go to a liquor store. Like, you had to be, if you wanted to go buy alcohol, you had to be an American, a Westerner, a British person or something to go and buy alcohol at a liquor store.
Why?
Because if you were, I don't know how you proved it, but if you were Middle Easterner, you had to prove that you were Christian somehow. I don't know how you would have done it. I don't remember, but
Because of the religious thing.
Exactly.
So we're not sure that they had ID cards, but that's kind of what's going on here.
Somehow there was proof of where you were from or something.
And again, being American comes through.
Yeah, I guess so. And
Yeah.
but I never thought, because with our parties, Dad always there was always liquor available.
Did he
to the
drink?
guests. My father, yeah, of course. Yeah, all their friends did.
And he's Muslim?
Well, yeah, but we're in a lot of, I guess a lot of the Iranians that we socialized with, Muslim by birth. So it's like a lot of Christians that in America, they say I'm Christian, but you ask them, can you quote a Bible verse, and they probably can't, or they probably have never been to church. Or
Well, it sounds a bit more like Judaism, right? A lot of Jewish people say, I'm Jewish by birth, by culture,
yeah,
because there's that familial lineage, right?
yes.
Most people in America, when they say I'm Christian, they don't base it on. Well, I don't know. I should be asking
A lot of
you.
people are kind of born into. You're born into a family that's Christian or Muslim or Jewish, and you just kind of.
But with those kinds of people, it's also still important to their identity that they believe that they're Christian rather than and maybe it's different. Maybe what you're saying is correct. I just want to understand. A lot of Jewish people that I know, they say I'm Jewish, but they don't mean I'm Jewish by faith. It's like a familial connection to a culture, a history.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
But
one is that?
even American friends I have that if you ask them what religion are you, they'll say I'm Christian.
Yeah.
But they could not tell you the last time they went to church.
I'm not saying that they mean that. I'm not saying that they believe I don't even know how to explain what I'm trying to say. They would want you to believe that they were Christians, believers, whether they were good ones or not. Whereas if you ask some Jewish people, as an example, they don't really care whether or not you think that they are spiritual believers of Judaism,
Right.
and its texts and stuff. They're like, yeah, my mom,
Yeah.
she's Jewish.
Yeah. I think probably the people that we were around were somewhere in the middle. So if you ask them, are you Muslim? Because for example, there'd be times during Ramadan that they would fast. Some of them would fast, some of them would not. Would they pray 3 or 5, depending on which sect of Islam they were believed in, times a day? Most of them, no. They didn't do that. They didn't go to the mosque on Friday. It wasn't one of those things. And our family was the same way. So
Now, where y'all looked, those kinds of Muslims, that version, where y'all looked down upon by the parts of the Islamic culture around you that was more.
if they were aware of it, yeah, we would be looked down upon.
Was it a hidden thing?
Well, it's not that you would hide it, but you don't really socialize with, those circles don't really cross, right?
Really?
Yeah, because the really, really conservative Muslims are not going to have parties where you're playing poker and having shots of scotch, through the night.
That's a good point.
So it's not, it just isn't socially, it doesn't cross paths. If they're aware of it, yes, they would look down upon it.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. But I also see that in every religion,
Mm-hmm.
where, the super, super followers of the stricter followers of the religion would kind of look at the ones that are kind of loosey-goosey and say, oh, that's not a true believer.
Of course. That's
Yeah.
always funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's always funny, I remember one time, I don't mean to, I don't know.
It's
Sorry,
cool.
this is a
No,
random
it's
story,
fine.
but
Yeah.
I remember one time I went to a Buddhist temple. I was living in D.C. and that, whether you want to call it a religion or a way of life or whatever, Buddhism is supposed to be quite open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to be, you don't have to look a certain way, so on and so forth. It's just a way of thought. And and it's in the middle of a little Korean community. I walk in, I'm the only person below the age of 45, and like an old creaky door in a mansion that's been empty for 20 years, everyone's heads turn at the same time. And all these it was the same thing. All these older women would, it's like they would turn and look at me, and then they would lean up and whisper something in their husband's head, and then the husband would look at me like with this like angry glance. So every religion has these things, right?
Yes, totally, absolutely.
So I wanted to share that funny story.
Yeah, no,
Cracked
that
me
is.
up.
I could just see it. Hilarious. And so yes. So we were talking about the alcohol. Yes, so alcohol is available, and a lot of the nights we would go to a hotel and listen to a live band, and I would go with them, you know, my husband at the time and my brother-in-laws and friends and stuff. But so I'm enjoying that part of the life, but I'm becoming the provider. I am the provider. He's not.
He's making no money.
Nothing at all. He doesn't have a job.
Do y'all talk about this?
I would ask, and then he would go, yeah, I'll get on it, and then he just wouldn't. You know, I'd come home and he hadn't left the house. So
I guess in his mind, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I clearly wasn't leaving, so it was okay. And it's actually interesting. So from that job at the furniture store, there's a gentleman that walked into the store asking to use the phone, and started talking to me. And turns out he worked at the Hilton Hotel, which was one of the few 5-star hotels in Abu Dhabi at the time. And so I said, well, are you guys hiring? And he said, sure. He says, we are. We're actually looking for a front office reservation supervisor.
Very cool.
So I go, great.
Get me out of here.
Yeah, there's nobody here. I'm like, literally, I don't talk to anybody all day long. And so
I got you, sweetie. Let's
he goes, come on.
Yeah. So
he gives me his card, and he says, call me, and I'll have you come in for an interview.
Okay.
You know, I'm still 17 years old.
I thought you were 19. Oh, he's 19.
Oh, he's 19.
You're 17.
I'm 17.
Sorry.
And so I walk in. Now that I look back, I'm thinking, you know, interview, how much experience do you have? None.
Yeah.
Have you ever used a computer? No. You know, so I walk in and I got the job. I became the guy didn't end up being my boss. It was a different person.
Okay.
But so I interviewed and I became the front office reservation supervisor. I was also the secretary to the front office manager. I learned a lot in this job, from using a computer. They had just received a desktop, a PC, which was amazing. It wasn't as big.
Did it still have the tail from, you know, it being a dinosaur? I mean,
yes,
okay.
It did. Every now and then it would wave its tail and smack things.
Do you remember using it for the first time?
Yes.
What was that feeling like?
It was very cool.
Yeah.
It was very, very cool. And how I could, you know, type in the reservations, and then it would print out on that dot matrix, you know, the holes along the edge of the paper.
Yes.
Yeah. It was very cool. And I thought I was all grown up, and I was doing a good job, and learning all kinds of new things and getting to meet new people, and it was really neat. There was a time like a flight got canceled, and I got to ride the minivan to the airport and pick up the passengers that had been stranded because we were going to allow them to stay at the hotel. So I got to do a lot of fun things.
And you're working around people who take pride in what they do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was lots of fun. And
which is, I can tell, something you desire.
I always do.
Yeah.
I do believe in, if you're gonna be a ditch digger, you better be the best ditch digger anybody can be. You know, just take pride in whatever you do, whatever it is.
While you look for another job.
While you look for another job. Yes, probably. So, as part of this, so he is still staying at home and not doing anything. I am thriving and enjoying my job, and getting to meet a lot of new people, making friends with people I work with. And one day, a couple of the girls that work in the food and dining department, they come in and they go, hey, we have a huge catering job.
Okay.
And I go, okay. And they said, well, we need extra hands. we don't have enough servers to come. And a lot of these girls are from the Philippines. They fly in, and at the time, remember I was telling you all the service people, everybody came in, skilled labor, or even doctors and whatever. All the work was done by people from outside the country.
Yeah.
So
what is the Philippines like?
I guess,
is that where they make all the waitresses? Like,
it's very strange because, for example, the general manager's secretary, she was a secretary. I mean, she was still the general manager's secretary, but she was an attorney by education out of the Philippines. And she was his secretary. And so all these girls were fully educated, amazingly educated.
Boom. That sounds fantastic. And a really good environment to be in. No wonder you learned so much.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It was lots of fun. So they go, Parisa, we need more hands for this catering job. And I go, okay. And they said, if the catering is, yeah, all right, I'll go along. So they go, the catering is for the princess. She is having a diplomatic dinner, a luncheon, and we're catering it.
Is this the Rainbow Sheik's wife?
Which princess? And they go, sure enough.
I'm sorry.
No, you're spot on.
Yeah.
It's the Rainbow Sheik's wife.
Oh, Sheik.
A lot of Westerners call it chic, same thing, but
correct me, please.
So it is, as the universe would turn things. It is the the woman, of course, that
same one
I went to the wedding. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but they live in the palace that we would always drive by, the seashell and the spaceship.
In the spaceship.
That I always would say, I want to live in that place. I want to live in the palace. I would like to be inside of it.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, we have a catering event, and they ask me if I want to help. And I go, sure, I'll help.
Yeah.
For those who don't know me.
Go on.
I am not the most domestic person, even at this age, let alone at the age of 17. Cooking, serving, these things are not my strong suits.
You can order the hell out of a meal.
I can order a meal like there's no
tomorrow. Whip one up by calling somebody like that.
No problem.
Perfect.
But to cook and serve, not so much me. Mm. So we show up. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited because we get to see this place, first of all.
So you're going to the spaceship?
Oh, we're going to the spaceship.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Oh, you've been inside that place?
I went inside the spaceship.
Okay, you talk. I want to hear this.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
So the spaceship, I wish I could have a picture of it. Maybe we can actually, I don't know, at some point.
I could probably bring one up for the footage. Yeah.
But so if you can imagine a flying saucer with 4 legs on each side.
Yes.
Landing, okay? So if you can imagine under the flying saucer, under the legs, are a circle of windows that go around the entire building. Can you imagine?
So it's landed on a glass house.
Well, underneath it.
Yeah, so I mean,
yeah. But there's space between the bottom floor and the ground. So it's not actually on the ground. Do you know what I mean? The 4 legs are holding it up above the ground.
And connected from the ground to the bottom of the spaceship's belly is glass windows.
Yeah. And they're at a 45-degree angle, leaning out.
Oh my gosh.
So we walk in and...
Sorry. Baller! Go on.
Amazing.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Part of this side of... So it's circular, but I don't know how much of the circle is the ballroom or the dining room that we're going to be serving this meal in. There's a table that seats probably 50 people.
Okay.
That goes across. But we walk in and the table has been set up and somebody pushes a button and the 45-degree wall of windows is the first time I ever see curtains that with a push of a button move.
Wow.
So the windows open up, the curtains disappear, the windows open up, and I am just blown away.
Yeah.
It is the coolest thing. I go to the bathroom, the sink is gold, the faucet is gold, the perfume bottles that would be sitting by the side of the sink for you to dab on yourself after you've washed your hands are like gallon jugs of like Christian Dior cologne and perfume.
I'm gonna pretend to know what that is. Go on.
They're just amazing.
Yeah. I'm surprised there's not someone hired to do that for you at this point.
Maybe there would. I didn't try, but maybe a hand would show up and just dab it on you. I don't know what would happen.
Pat you on the back. You're so pretty.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm having a blast, and then time comes where the guests have arrived, the princess has arrived, and everybody gets seated, and now I'm in the kitchen with all my buddies who are the actual Filipino. They're used to doing this for a living.
So they go to places like this and they do this for their living.
They do this. This is their job.
So like, we're going to show you the ropes. Don't break anything.
They're going, oh, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So the guest of honor for this diplomatic dinner luncheon, is the Turkish Prime Minister's wife.
Oh, okay.
Because the Turkish Prime Minister is in town, meeting with Sheikh Zayed, which is the princess's father, and the princess has been called upon to entertain the wife.
Boom. Got it. Mm-hmm. That is, so she has a job.
Oh, she has a job.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
Very cool.
She has a job.
I never thought about that, though. That's very cool. Yeah.
And so I am in the kitchen and they say, Parisa, we have a job for you. Here is a platter the size of, I don't know, a football field to me. But the platter it's a substantial platter.
It's a big platter.
So they give me this platter and it has giant meatballs on it, the size of like a baseball. Each meatball was the size of a baseball.
Okay.
With a sauce on it that's tomato based, and it's got herbs, it's got chunks of everything in it, and the meatballs are made with rice and meat. It's a typical Middle Eastern dish.
What's it called?
Kufte is what we call it in Farsi.
Kufte.
Yeah. They give me this platter and they go, okay, this is how you're going to serve it. Because I have no idea. They say you hold you put one end of the platter on your shoulder, and you hold the other end of the platter with your hand. So imagine my left arm, I've got the platter on my shoulder with my hand.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give me, not tongs, not serving utensils, they give me a fork and a spoon, because that's the cool way to do it. And you hold, with your right hand, you hold the fork and the spoon between your fingers to where you can kind of open and close them against each other.
Western chopsticks, go on.
I guess, yes. And they go, okay, when you go to each guest, you separate the fork and the spoon, pick up one of these giant meatballs, and put them on their plate.
They're telling you this as you begin to do it. Zero training.
Zero training. This is like we're throwing you in the pool. You're either going to sink or you're going to swim.
And by the way, they will take you away in the spaceship if you get this wrong.
This is, exactly. No pressure. You've got this. This is easy.
Mars is great. Again, Mars is great this time of year.
This is how I ended up on Mars. So I show up, I walk in, the table is now full of people, and they tell me, serve the Turkish Prime Minister's wife first, then the princess, and then the other guests. No problem. I'm, in my adult life, 5'1". I'm not a very big person, okay? I have the platter, I'm trying to balance it, I walk over, and I find out where the Turkish Prime Minister's wife is sitting, which is across the table. This, funnily enough, they are not at the ends of the table. The princess and the Turkish Prime Minister's wife are actually across from each other at the center of the table. So you imagine a long rectangular table. You would think the heads would be at each end of the table. They're not.
Well,
they're actually sitting on the center.
That makes way more sense.
Because they can talk to each other.
Yeah.
They can actually hear each other, right?
If they were men, they'd be at the ends.
Of course.
Pass the salt.
Glad you said that, Naomi. So.
Oh, we'll own it. We'll own it.
So I walk up to the Turkish Prime Minister's wife with this platter and the spoon and the fork, and I'm trying to think, separate the spoon and the fork, and I suddenly realize this woman is wearing the largest gown on the face of the planet. It is a layered taffeta. Taffeta is a very kind of a stiff silk fabric. Okay. Gorgeous, embroidered, sorry.
Why did I know that? Okay, go on.
Dress, so it's amazing, except the perimeter of this dress is like 4 feet away from the chair that she's actually sitting on.
So this is for security reasons. It's to keep people away.
I'm guessing. I don't know why else you'd do this to yourself. So now I'm going, okay, I have to reach her plate. So I literally take my shoes and slide them under her dress, and I start shuffling. So imagine me with this giant platter on one hand, the fork and the spoon in the other, and I'm shuffling underneath her dress.
All 5'1" of you, yeah.
Trying to get under her dress without seeming inappropriate. And so then I think I'm close enough. I go and I scoop the meatball with the spoon and the fork.
Mm-hmm.
And I pick it up from the platter and I bring it over to get it to her plate. And what I forget is you have to remain very focused on your fingers staying together to hold the meatball.
While you do the shuffle.
While you're moving and you're doing the shuffle. And somehow I forget to do that. And I separate the fork from the spoon. And as you can imagine, in slow motion, it's like boom. Plop.
Gravity holds up the middle finger.
And
wait, so you drop... Where does it land?
It lands on the bodice of her dress, bounces a couple of times, and slides all the way down her skirt.
Okay.
The juiciest, sauciest meatball I could find. And then it's under the table. And there are gasps, maybe even a scream.
You hear a gun
Might have been me.
cock.
Cock of a gun, yeah.
And then complete silence.
I'm like, and so I'm kind of frozen, and I'm thinking, I should go for the meatball.
What? She needs this meatball.
So I'm like, trying to get down under the table with the platter still in my hand and the fork and the spoon, trying to get to the meatball.
Okay.
And I see the princess and she's shaking her head. She's looking at me and she's just shaking her head. She's like, no,
You're dead.
don't do that.
You're
don't
dead.
do that.
It's done.
And as I'm trying to get down under the table while balancing all these things, I don't know what happened, but the next thing I know, I'm in the kitchen. So somehow
someone hit you.
Whisked me back.
Oh, the Filipino girl?
They were like, the platter was gone off my hand. The spoon and the fork was gone.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't know what happened to the meatball, but I was back in the kitchen. And they were like, listen, you just grab a chair and sit here. Don't touch anything. Don't go near anything.
Why were you the one doing the meatball? It's not even day one. That would imply 24 hours of... I have
no idea. I think it was a cruel joke. It was awful.
Were they watching from the kitchen? Like...
Well, what I think happened, because subsequently, there were subsequent visits, I think what happened was, because I was the only Middle Eastern,
okay,
the princess asked for me to serve the guest of honor.
Okay.
Not knowing that I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I do remember that the Turkish Prime Minister's wife was saying things really loud and very fast. I don't understand Turkish, but I think she was cussing me out. I have a slight feeling that she was I ruined her dress, and she was not a happy woman.
Was it actually ruined, or was it like super
a
nice
taffeta
dress?
skirt, a taffeta dress like that with that kind of sauce on it? Yeah, it was ruined. So anyway, I was ready to be exiled from the country, but I wasn't, and I wasn't fired. But it was one of those moments that will always, always make me shudder at the thought of what how non-domesticated I am, and also how, I could have it could have been a bad situation, but it wasn't.
How were you treated by the people that you worked with?
So sweet.
Really?
So sweet. They were all like, don't worry about it. It's
Beautiful.
okay. It's okay. It'll be fine. Don't worry about a thing.
Beautiful, because that would have been the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we went back to work, and I went back to my old job, and the camera just stopped.
Oh, no.
So I go back to my job at the Hilton.
Uh-huh.
Sean still doesn't have a job. Life goes on.
Okay.
A few weeks go by. Oh, by this time, the lease is up on the apartment.
It's been a year.
It's been a year.
So he hasn't worked for a year?
Oh, yeah.
What was he doing?
Playing guitar.
How good at guitar was he?
Very good. But
Was
even
he-
then,
was
I'm
he trying to
thinking,
start a band?
get
Like-
a job playing a guitar. I don't care. Just
Yeah.
get a job. No.
I'm sorry. No disrespect to the...
Hey,
yeah.
it's all good. So we actually end up moving in with his parents in their apartment.
How was that?
I loved them. I really did. They were very supportive of me. And so it was okay.
And now they can see the day-to-day dynamic.
Now they're seeing things day to day. Very good.
And
Yes,
he's
you are
aware
absolutely
that they
right.
can see everything too.
You're spot on. Yes.
Ooh-wee.
Even though he's aware, it's not changing his behavior. But yes. Yes.
His dad must have been not very punchy if he didn't change.
I guess not. Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. So surprisingly, the princess ends up having, by now she's had children.
Okay.
And there's a birthday party for one of her younger ones. I think it's like a 4th or 5th birthday party, 5th year. And so she caters the event through the Hilton again.
Okay.
And specifically asks for me. Now keep in mind, I don't ever want to be a part of a catering event again. And they come in and they say, the princess has asked for you to come as part of the servers.
And you're thinking,
and I'm thinking,
it's a trap.
Are you kidding me? The only thing I can think about, I don't even speak Arabic. I mean, I speak barely any Arabic. So it's not even that I can communicate with her. And when I'm there, she doesn't really talk to me. But the only thing I can think of is because I look Middle Eastern. I mean, I'm Middle Eastern, and all the other ladies serving were Filipino. I don't know why that made a big difference, but she specifically asked for me to be a part of the serving group.
Well, let me make a guess, and maybe I'm wrong. See what you think. You look probably pretty similar to her, right? I'm assuming she was beautiful.
Yeah. Yes, she was beautiful.
You're a young, beautiful girl.
If you say so. I appreciate that. Yes, at the time, I guess so.
I'm making an educated guess. I mean, think about it. She's looking at her. She probably doesn't get to interact very often.
Maybe not.
With women that she can put herself in their shoes pretty easily and say, you didn't get the life I got. Mm-hmm. So there's probably some serious empathy and also maybe even weird jealousy and respect for the fact that you were there doing a job like that, you know, because she can see herself in your shoes. Yeah. And so anyways.
I think that's a good perspective. It really is. I never stopped to think about it that way. But yeah, I could see that. I mean,
maybe that's what it was.
The connection, maybe. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. I like that. I start taking that on as the reason why.
Let's go with that.
Yeah, I think so. Mm-hmm. So of course, you're not going to turn the princess down. So I'm like, sure, no problem.
Wait, why?
I wouldn't.
Oh, you said you can't turn the princess.
You can't turn the princess.
I thought you said you had to. Okay,
no.
Cool.
So I go. Thankfully, there are no meatballs and there is no sit-down dinner and no serving. It's just a party. So it's basically, our job was to make sure that food was available and things were picked up. And so when the gifts are opened, I am crawling on the floor, picking up the wrapping paper and the stuff that had been thrown around.
Yeah. So
the international school that I went to, that I graduated from, it was a private school.
In England?
No, the international school in Abu Dhabi.
UAE.
Yeah, that I graduated from. So it was a private school also. And so therefore, the students that went there, my classmates, were all from families that were well-to-do, you know, expected to have futures that were pretty well-to-do. As I'm crawling on the floor, picking up wrapping paper from children running around, I come across a set of feet and I look up and a voice says, Parisa? And I look up and it's one of my classmates and his mother.
What?
They're guests at the princess's house. Okay. But there is this look. To me, I've always been a believer. Whatever you do it. You know, right? So I look up, I'm like, hey, how are you guys doing? But the look on their faces was a jolt at that moment in my life. Because I'm in a server's uniform, crawling on the floor, picking up paper, and here's my classmate and his mother, and they're looking at me like, what the heck happened?
Are you on drugs now?
I don't know that they asked, but yes, it could have been even that.
Kind of thing. That's all, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it was a moment for me where I was like, you know, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. I'm not going to ever be ashamed of what I choose to do. Yeah. But I need to go to college.
That was
I
what
need to
did
get
that
an
for
education. You. It was one of those moments where I was like, I need to get this isn't what I want. I don't want this to happen again.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a pivotal moment. Mm-hmm. I did not spill anything on anyone. The event went very well. Mm-hmm. And I subsequently did 2 more parties for the princess.
Did she ever speak to you?
She would always just look at me. There was just this knowing look. and tip me very well. She would tip all of us very well. But there was always just this, she would just look at me and smile, and that's it. She never talked to me. So I went back to my front office job.
She gave her your number.
I should have, but I didn't.
Call me.
Yeah, just call me. We'll hang out. We'll have coffee.
If you need meatballs, don't call me.
Yeah. Don't ask me for meatballs. And one day, I got a call at work from Sean.
Okay.
Which was interesting. I lie. I was at home. It wasn't at work. I was at home.
You were at
and
home.
Sean was out, and he called me on the phone. I don't know where he was, but he called me on the phone. So I'm at my in-laws' house.
Yeah.
Or apartment. And he calls, and I'm talking to him on the phone. And he says, I've been thinking. And I go, okay. He says, this isn't going anywhere. Staying here. We're just living here in Abu Dhabi. And we are, by the way, because we're young, we're spending everything I'm making. Month to month. And just not smart. We're just young. We're not saving anything.
But you're not making a lot either.
Yeah, but we don't have any expenses. We don't have any rent. We don't have any utilities. We don't buy food.
So what are you spending money on?
Just crap. Going out to dinner, buying clothes.
He's taking you out on your money.
Yeah, exactly. And so he says, I want to go home. I want to go back to America.
Okay. Which you've never been to.
Yes. And where as a child I probably would have said, oh my God, that's great. This was not my intention. So it was not something, it was not a goal for me.
Yeah.
So I'm going, wait a minute, I have a job, my family's here. I'm not ready to go. And he says, nope, we're going. Not only are we going to America, but what we're going to do is the way we're going to buy our tickets to go to America is we're going to sell all your jewelry. So remember when I was telling you that in the Iranian custom, whenever there's an event, your birthday, New Year, you get jewelry.
You get jewelry.
So he is telling me that he's not working. We have no money.
Okay.
He wants to go home, and the way we're going to get tickets to buy a plane ticket to go to America is to sell all my jewelry so that we can buy these tickets. And so I'm listening to all of this, and I'm going, well, I'm not sure that I'm ready to go home. I mean, go to America, because this was not home for me.
And he's speaking to you in the way that you just presented his... What? So what the hell makes him think he can talk to you like that?
I don't know.
Was it the custom there or something?
No, because he's an American boy. And this is where I feel like maybe it was just me and the relationship and me alone. Because I took it. I was like, okay, but that's not what I want to do. And he says, well, that's the only way we're going to do it, and I'm ready to go home, and it's time for me to go home. We're not going anywhere here. And so I hang up the phone and I burst into tears. And my father-in-law walks by and says, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I said, I don't think he was going to want me to tell you. And he says, well, you're sitting in my living room crying. I don't care what he wants you to tell me. Tell me what's going on.
And he, not his son, cares about what you're feeling.
Yeah. Good point. Yes. So I tell him. Mm-hmm. And he and my mother-in-law sit me down, as always. At this time, they were very much the parent figures that were connected to me. I, of course, am kind of a little estranged from my parents, right? Because they weren't happy that I went through with this marriage, right? So my father-in-law says, Parisa, we will talk to Sean, and maybe it is a good idea for you guys to go back to America. He's not really growing here. There's nothing for him here. Maybe going back to the U.S. would be a good thing, but nobody's selling your jewelry to buy a ticket. You know, we'll talk about this when he comes home. So, long story short, maybe long story longer, he did come home. Sean was not happy with me telling them. We had a huge argument about that. He was like, why did you tell them? And I said, well, I burst into tears in the middle of the living room. Your dad's asking me what's going on. I'm not going to lie to him. So there was a big to-do about that. But they basically came to an agreement where my father-in-law contacted my dad and once again spoke to my dad in a very diplomatic way and said, listen, I think it would be good for both kids if they go to the U.S. Sean would get a job. Parisa's talking about wanting to go to school. Maybe that would be a good thing for her, an opportunity. So my dad bought a ticket for me. His dad bought a ticket for him. And surprisingly, where I had been enthralled and in love and amazed and mesmerized by America, more so Hollywood, and the thought of just what America stands for, against every fiber of my being at that moment, I got on a plane with Sean and we flew to the United States. Because at that moment, I did not want to leave my family. I did not want to leave what I knew and fly to some country that I knew nothing about. With a husband that I still loved, but it certainly wasn't panning out to be what I thought it was going to be.